Friends, colleagues and listeners, here we are, part 5 of this 6-part series with a little roundup thereafter. And I'm joined with Arpad Zakar, who's a principal consultant with Cormus Partners, which is a search and leadership assessment firm focusing on senior level recruiting. Arpad, nice finish there a few minutes ago for us, but who knows for how long for the listeners. But succession, really important. And we mentioned that the word success appears in Succession, so it should not be overlooked. Now we're looking at something that you mentioned in that last session is at the top of an organization, or should be, and that is culture. And so important. So there's something I just want to throw to you as well, which is culture, as you've said, is one of the most powerful and defining characteristics of most organizations. But it often has little in common with the values found on the website.
Yeah, no, that's there's a big gap sometimes, I have to say. It's one thing how you project yourself to the outside world as an organization, Chris. That's what I see, that you can talk about your values, your beliefs, your behaviors, your mindset, and all that on the website. But how it's actually reflected on your workers, your workforce, your at all seniority levels, that's another thing, basically. So there's normally a gap between how you're being perceived from the outside by customers, prospective clients, prospective candidates, and how those who are already within the organizations are feeling about you as a leader, for example.
Yeah, and what do you think? What do you think then of these organisations that spend so much time with the PR and the marketing and trying to look good on a poster or on a picture or letterhead or on the website, and they come up with the most wonderful mission and vision, and then when you actually get into the business, or you get into the people that work for it, it's totally different, and in some cases, it's polar opposites to what you'd expect when you look at somebody's website and marketing.
Yeah, well, you have to be careful, because candidates these days, they assess your organization from the very beginning of the relationship. Basically, the moment they enter into a dialogue with you, they evaluate the hiring process and later the onboarding process. So you really need to make sure that your culture is reflected on this candidate experience. Basically, how you treat your candidates is probably a good indication as to how they're going to be treated as your employees later on, once they are hired. I think the other thing what organizations are being evaluated on is how open the leadership is, how transparent are they communicating, are they really upfront and honest, or they're just sitting in their ivory towers, and basically they're not sharing, they're not communicating. Also, a lot of savvy candidates are looking at the various incentive programs that you have in place within the organization as well. That's a really good reflection of your values, all the things that you speak about in your website. Do you actually practice those, or it's really just words, basically? So those would be the key things that I would highlight. How as incoming talent, your organization is being evaluated upon.
Yeah, no, 100%. And one of the things that we spoke about earlier on in the series, we were talking about minimum expectation documents.
Yeah.
And most exercises to determine values, in the end, they can be a waste of time. But defining behaviors is more effective and useful. And if you're able to create a decision-making culture where the key is a basic and simple question, what do you recommend? And by involving your people, and like you said, being open, honest, ethical, etc., but by involving them so that they know that when they say something, people listen. That's such a valuable, and again, it comes down to care, because the worst thing in the world is you try and speak to somebody above you and they haven't even got the time to, even like open their ear to what you're saying. There's nothing worse for people than to see that, because they're just being dismissed almost as if their comments or their feedback isn't worthwhile.
I mean, listening is a skill that is massively underrated. I think it's one of the most important managerial and also leadership skills. Really understanding what matters to your employees, how they react, most of these conversations don't really take place on a regular basis. That's the issue, Chris. Especially in the aviation sector, what I see is, especially in at the operational level, technical level, regardless of seniority, people don't have that channel between the manager and the leader of the organization or the business unit, at least, to voice their concerns, to really voice their frustrations as well from time to time. And this is why you've got the retention issue, because it's basically they've not had the chance, they've not had the platform to have that dialogue with anyone, basically, who could make a difference to their everyday, basically their manager, their leader, their business unit manager. I think those sort of and if you don't have the communication, then how would you know as a leader that that things are not working properly, basically? So keeping those channels of communications open and keeping it honest and straightforward is the only way, because this is exactly why we are seeing in the aviation industry in particular the sort of exodus that we've been seeing over the past sort of year or so.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? How many people would appear to have had so much frustration for so long that it needed something like the pandemic to wake them up, or to say, you know, there's something else out there in life. You know, maybe I should look at doing something else.
Exactly.
Amazing, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I think it has been in the back of our minds that basically something has been going wrong for a long time, but I think it's those concerns have not been given any ears or any attention, basically. And now that the employers are needing the employees a lot more than vice versa, what we are used to, I think this is what, yeah, that's the sort of structural change that needs to happen in the industry. That, yeah, you need to not only listen to those, but really address them. Because if you don't, then these people have options these days. They reskill, they upskill, and they leave you. And this is the issue that I think a lot of leaders, organizations, or leaders are having to come to terms with, basically.
Yeah, and what you said there as well now about employers needing their people, you know, as soon as the people realise that the employers need them, that's when they really come to life and either stay or go. And the good ones are always going to be the ones who are going to leave you.
Exactly. Regardless of seniority level, by the way, even if it's like an operational person, even if it's like a technical person, even if it's if it's something that is really not a leadership or managerial, but they will go because the skill set or whatever they have in terms of background skills, it's going to be put into good use in other sort of related sectors that are better paid, better remunerated, and where they can be treated better.
Yep, 100%. Now, what do you think of companies that go into such detail to, you know, word craft a set of vision and mission statements that, when tested, if somebody's got the guts to test them, they could not even repeat back to you, in as much as they don't know them themselves, and most of the staff don't know the vision and the mission statements because they're too complicated, and they, you know, they're there to be written for somebody to look at and admire, but when it comes to living it, it's very difficult for the employees. Now, in my opinion, it's far better to have a basic, simple purpose and values that last for 100 years. So it shouldn't be up for change and, you know, somebody's whim. It's something that anybody who works for that company would say, okay, I know why I'm working for this company, and this is why.
Yeah. Culture is not the mission statement, not the values, not any of those things. These are the unwritten rules of how things around here are getting done. Basically, that's the definition, I think, or that's the one. That's how I understand it. What are the cultural norms, the behaviors that are encouraged, discouraged, accepted, rejected within the group? And I think the reason why it happens, what you and this discrepancy or the gap exists, is because the leadership within the organizations are not really championing all those models, all all those behaviors, mindsets, beliefs that they would like other people to have. So it's basically, as a leader, you really need to you need to be a culture champion, because if
Yeah.
you're not, then who else is it going to be? And then secondly, you will be the architect of the culture as well, because you are the one who is making sure that the right structures, policies, mission, vision statements are in place that support those desired behaviors. But I think the emphasis is on the word support. I think if they don't see, if your team doesn't see um, you modeling those behaviors, why would they do that?
100%. Lead by example, and that's the most important thing. If I see somebody with statements that have got the word caring, A, I really like it, but B, it also gives you the chance to really challenge whether or not they're able to deliver, services or support up to that wonderful world's heights. Because care is a powerful word. And when somebody says, we care about our people, we care about our customers, we care about our business, we care about our tomorrows, we care about our results. And the reason we're here is because we dare to care. That for me is the basics that I want to see in any company that I would ever work for.
It's a nice word, and if you act upon it, it's even better. And the way to do it is basically from the very beginning of a candidate employer relationship. The whole candidate experience needs to reflect that care. How do you treat them? How do you treat them if you're interested in them? And most importantly, even more importantly, how do you treat them when you reject them? Remember, these
Yes.
people
Yes.
are not only prospective employees. They can be your clients, they can be your suppliers later, they can be your boss. I mean, you never know. I mean, careers are long, and people remember the bad a lot longer than they remember the good. And I think that's why you really need to just make sure that you are treating everyone with not only with care, but with respect and with the long term in mind, Chris. And I think this is where the short sightedness of these recruitment processes, I mean, they are just infuriating, really. I mean, the sort of horror stories that I hear from very senior people who are being put through multiple stages of interviews and put through really like 8, 9, 10 months of grilling. I mean, you really need to think through your processes and think through this whole thing from a different perspective, basically.
I agree, because it disrupts lives, and it makes people edgy, and then if things don't work out, it's not the best way to do it at all. I totally agree with you. Totally agree. But then again, like you said, culture is the behavior of the management team at that particular time. And if they don't walk the talk, then it's all BS, and people will soon see through it.
Yeah. Very quickly, savvy candidates see through it before they join an organization, basically. And the more senior they are, the quicker they realize what the spiel is. Basically, that's it. Yeah.
Which is a shame, isn't it? Because if potential candidates can do their own research and they can see it, then my oh my, why aren't people able to see it inside? And I think sometimes you've got very disruptive or like I said, just I sometimes wonder how certain people ever got to a position within a company where they're genuinely nasty people, and that has such a terrible rotting effect on that organization for a period of time. I don't understand how some people can last as long as they do. They eventually always get moved on, but it lasts too long.
It speaks a lot about the organization itself as well. If you think about it, basically how they managed to tolerate it that long. Why did it take so long to pick up those toxic behaviors? I think it just tells you volumes about an organization and how it works, how it's run.
Yeah, I agree. And what's the other saying? Caesars create ineffective cultures and lead to underperformance.
Yeah. That's I've not heard that one, but it's basically that's a good one.
Yeah. It's I've got people that I've worked for, and some CEOs and some colleagues, and some people, and I look back and I think, my goodness me, if you could put all of them together, what a dream team. But they've always been caring, they've always been good leaders, they've been tough when they need to, they're consistent, you know, they care about what's going on, and they give people a chance.
Yeah, exactly. And this is exactly what the succession planning is about. This is exactly what a nurturing environment is about. Giving the young, the hungry, the inexperienced the opportunity to prove themselves and recognize them. That's what it is.
Yeah, no, it's good. Right, sir. That's another little session complete, and now we move on to the sixth one, which is benefits. So you know, please make sure you tune in again, because that's the next section. So thanks again, Arpad. Really enjoyed that one.